Hey, welcome back to the course. So in this lecture, we'll understand how the Tracealyzer software really works. Okay, so for that, I highly recommend you to go to the Tracealyzer documentation to understand more about the Tracealyzer working. Okay, for that, just type Tracealyzer documentation and just follow the first link, and it will take you to the Tracealyzer documentation. Okay, so I highly recommend you to go through all these links. Okay, so where they have explained beautifully how this really works. All right, so but if you are impatient to read all these things, so then I will explain in brief how exactly this software works. Okay, so here is a diagram. So this actually summarizes how your embedded board and the host PC interacts. Okay, so first you have to download the Tracealyzer software. So let me explain this through the PPT. So alright, so this is your host PC. Okay, so where you have installed this Tracealyzer software. Okay, so this we saw how to do it, right? So after that, this is your embedded board. Okay, so this is your embedded board where your embedded application is running, right? So in this case, it is a FreeRTOS application, isn't it? Okay, so and this is your FreeRTOS kernel, and this is your target microcontroller. Okay, so in our case, it is it may be based on SAM3X based microcontroller, or if you are or you may be using any STM based microcontroller or LPC, whatever. Okay, so now the Tracealyzer guys, okay, will be giving one library. Okay, so that we call as a Tracealyzer recorder library. Okay, so this will be given by the Tracealyzer guys. Okay, and that library you have to install it along with your FreeRTOS kernel. So that library consists of one component called snapshot trace recorder. Okay, so that means it is just a piece of code which you need to integrate with the FreeRTOS kernel. Okay, and with that piece of code that we call as a Tracealyzer recorder library, you have to download the whole thing into your microcontroller. Okay, so that means whenever you are compiling your embedded application and kernel, along with that you have to compile this component also. Okay, and then you have to download everything into your target processor. All right, then you have to run your application. So in this case, it's the FreeRTOS application, right? So once the application is running in the target microcontroller, you have to halt that execution by using a debugger. So in the debugger, you will be having run and halt, isn't it? So run for some time, then halt. Okay, so after halting, you have to read the memory of your microcontroller, that is RAM memory, okay, into a file. Okay, so that we call as a memory dumping. Okay, so you have to dump the RAM of your microcontroller into the file. Okay, so that we call as reading of memory. So this reading of memory is taken care by the software called memory loggers. So I will show you how you can install a memory logger. So once again, I will repeat. So you have to integrate the Tracealyzer recorder library with your project, okay, in the Atmel Studio. Then along with that, you have to compile whole your project, then download that into your microcontroller, and then run your application. Then with the help of debugger, halt the execution, and with the help of memory logger, read the RAM contents into the file. Okay, so that we call as memory dumping, and that will be done by using a memory logger application. Okay, so there are lots of memory logger application which is available, which you can use to do this. Okay, and once you get the memory dump, okay, that will be in the extension of .bin or .hex, and you have to give that file as an input to the Tracealyzer software. Then Tracealyzer software will plot whatever happening inside your code execution. Okay, so what exactly happens here is that the trace recorder is a software component which actually logs all the details into the RAM. Okay, so all the task details, all the ISR details, the timing related parameters. So every activity which is going on in your application, this recorder library will log into the RAM of this microcontroller. Okay, so we are just dumping that log to the file, then giving that file as an input to the Tracealyzer software to see a graphical representation of these activities which is happening in your microcontroller. Okay, so it is that simple. So that's how the Tracealyzer works. Okay, all right, great. So now we will implement all these things practically. Okay, so I will demonstrate you how you can do all these things. Okay, so for that, the first task is integrating the Tracealyzer library with your project, then compile it successfully, download the code into the microcontroller, then install one memory logger application. The Atmel Studio itself gives you a memory logger application. If you are using Eclipse or Keel, so I have covered how you can dump the RAM contents into the file in these sections. Okay, so you can go there and you can check it out. So the memory dumped file will be in the format of hex, and that will give it as the input to the Tracealyzer. So all these things we'll see in the next lecture. All right, so see you in the next lecture.